All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Aishah, and welcome to this webinar. I hope that the day has been going quite fine for you, and let's just take this hour together. So this is the plan that I have for the next 45 minutes, an hour or so. I'll spend about 25 minutes for the first half, which will leave us with about 20 minutes for a creative activity that I hope you'll join me. And then we close with the remaining 15 minutes for any Q&A. Yeah. So let's begin. So allow me to first and foremost recite a super short prayer. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. As a Muslim, we have prayers for every part of our life. And one of the fundamental ones is this phrase here. It reminds us of our intention for everything that we do, which is to serve God. And while Arabic as a language is not used in conversations by every Muslim because the religion transcends ethnicity, each Muslim is able to, at the very least, recite prayers in Arabic on a daily basis. And what does this phrase mean, if you ask me? Here it is in Malay. Dengan nama Allah yang Maha Pemurah dan Maha Penyayang. And Malay is my mother tongue, the spoken language of my people. The Malays are natives of Singapore, or known in English as Singapore. And even though in Singapore, English is the mainstream language, the national language for Singapore is Malay. Our national anthem, if you were to Google it, is in Malay as well, written by a Malay Muslim composer, Mr. Zubir Zaid. And you'll notice that if you're to Google for it, you will notice that the lyrics mimics a prayer that expresses the hope for one's beloved country. So indeed, prayers are the pillars of which our identity as Muslims rest upon. And I begin this presentation with just a short example of so. Here is the English translation. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. And so when I think about self-introduction, it naturally calls for me to think about my identity, of which the top layer will be my faith, followed by my race. And the common thread that ties these two identities are language. Speaking of language, I've recently attended Te Reo Maori beginners class, and I thought it is good for me to learn the language of the land so that I can familiarize myself with some of the terms used. I am far from being an expert, still thinking whether I should go on to do my intermediate level. But for now, I would like to try sharing my PPH with everyone here today. So please forgive me if I mispronounce or butchered any of the words. I shall do this in Maori, Malay, and then English. So let's begin. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Malay te whakapaparanga mai, ko Hingapori te whenua tupu, engari ko Aotearoa te kainga, pe te noho au he kaiwha ka ora toi I Attuned Space Art Therapy, tēnā koutou katoa. Selamat sejahtera semua. Melayu adalah bangsa saya, Singapura tempat lahir saya, tetapi Selandia Baru adalah tempat tinggal saya. Saya adalah seorang ahli terapi seni di Attuned Space Art Therapy. Selamat sejahtera semua. Greetings to you all. Malay is my ancestry. Singapore is where I was born, but however, New Zealand is my home. I'm an art therapist at Attuned Space Art Therapy. Greetings to you all. After getting my bachelor's in 2005, I jumped into the workforce holding primary positions of case manager and counselor in various settings in non-profit organization and a government service. The clients I first served were vulnerable youths and families. I then took a break from direct work to do health community programs with non-profit organizations. And this was a position in a statutory board under the purview of Ministry of Health. But my heart seemed to gravitate towards direct work again, so I left for Singapore Prison Service, which is one of the government agencies to reprise my role as a counsellor. I work with youths and adults inmates, both male and female, and I prep them to make the choice of living a drug-free life when they finish their sentences. Out of the 8 years of service there, I was honored to have been nominated to be a part of a 2-year pilot team where we ran several in-house family-centric rehabilitation programs. My takeaway from all these experiences was that healing and hope takes place in an ecosystem where everyone, especially the clients themselves, play a role. And the professionals that I met along the way possess different skills from mine. And the beauty of this is that we can offer a variety of perspectives and ways of supporting. So having that range of options allow autonomy for how people can get the help, which is why I love being with Ignite in one place for a diverse group of us. On a similar note of diversity, I applied for further studies in art therapy because I wanted to have an additional skill set on top of what I am already familiar with. It was a 2-year study, which I started in 2021. And then right after graduation in August 2023, I flew out of Singapore on a one-way ticket to start the next chapter of my life here. Migration was never really a plan set in stone for us. We had some thoughts about it, but what happened was that in between my studies, we did a road trip to the South Island in 2022, inspired by our experiences, came back to Singapore, decided to try, cleared the visa process, and here we are. So together with my husband, 2 kids and 2 cats, represented by the numbers there, 1 + 2 + 2. I'm a crazy cat lady, so anyone who shares the same passion, just drop me a line. All right, so that's about me. Let's talk about art therapy. What is art therapy? What isn't art therapy? So art therapy is an evidence-based mental health profession. It requires MA level training that is rigorous in theory and application through placement and supervisions. Approved by institutions recognized by governing bodies around the world, where for New Zealand, it would be ANZACATA, the Australian, New Zealand and Asian Creative Art Therapies Association. It is a form of psychotherapy, which means that in the work that we do, we offer longer-term treatment, which attempts to help clients to gain insight into their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And some part of the work that we do is to look into their past and how that influences the current challenges that the clients face. With Ignite clients, where we have shorter runways, I won't be able to deep dive into the past that much, but I will take a modified approach. In the creative art therapies, we have a few. We have the dance movement, drama therapy, music therapy, and visual arts therapy. So my training is in the visual arts, where we use art materials to express, to explore, and to create. We facilitate the creative process. And one of the ways that we do in session is by offering an art directive to the client. For example, it can be choose any material offered here to express how you're feeling right now. And then we give space for them to make the art. We then engage in a reflective conversation, drawing links to what they did in the session to how they relate to the challenges outside of therapy. So as such, we focused on being in the moment. We tap on the present experiences and we make observations reflecting back to the client. We encourage our clients to participate along. We get curious about how they feel when they make that particular mark, what goes through their mind, and what could that element in the artwork symbolize or mean for them. So how can art therapy help? A couple of points, just to name a few. One of which is that through art therapy, we can actually help our clients to increase their emotional awareness. By expanding on their vocabulary, as emotions can be pretty complex. So an example of it is anger. Underneath that anger, using art materials can help our clients discover that they might be feeling more than just anger. It could be hurt, or it could be shame, or it could be guilt. And while words might not be readily available, we can actually support our clients as these could be hidden in the images that they make in session. Art therapy can also help clients to gain clarity in understanding about their behavior patterns. What made them do, respond, react in a way that they did? what's the motivation behind those actions or lack of actions for some matter. Art therapy can also encourage healthier ways of coping, discover and explore how else to cope, what can they do instead of exploding or inflating for some people. And art therapy can also address or support people with a range of issues. So it can be from general well-being to trauma, grief and loss, anxiety, or even supporting our neurodiverse individuals. So when it comes to that, it's not so much about trying to help or trying to make the neurodiverse individuals conform to the general population. It is more of just helping them in the unique ways that they are being through expression. And as such, we can actually work with a range of age group from children all the way to adulthood. So prior to my training, I had some assumptions about art therapy. I don't come from an art background, so I always had these curiosities and assumptions and fears. And I realized that when I was talking to others as well, it is normal and common to have these assumptions, concerns, or fears about art therapy. And for today, I'm just sharing with you just two common myths. And the first one is this one. Artistic types are the best suited for art therapy. So I heard a lot of people come to me and say that, oh, Aishah, I can't really draw. I can draw stick figures. I don't think I'm fit for art therapy. But this is a myth because it isn't about the artistic knowledge and skills. It's not about an art class. It's about using the imagination and creativity, which can be facilitated by a qualified art therapist. Now, the reason why I mentioned qualified art therapist is because that's the key element here, because our training helps us to understand materials, help us to understand the materials' characteristics, and their potential impact on the person who uses them. So we are trained in offering the types of art directives that meets the needs of the client, and we need to know why we choose the art directive. So there's an intention behind that. So it means that we know what art directives to choose and what materials to offer to the client. And these decisions must be thought through carefully because we want to offer safety for the clients while appropriately challenging them. So this being said, we cannot be 100% sure of how clients will respond to art materials and directives, but we can take cautionary measures to ensure that we do our ethical best. I can give an example of this. I had a client who had aggression as a challenge, and I offered modeling clay to him, invited him to spend some time playing with it. So it's a free directive in the sense that I don't have a particular theme, but I just told him that here's the clay, and then just take a moment to play with it. So if you want to create an item, if you want to create an image, you can do so. If he doesn't, he just want to play with it, that's okay too. So in this experiential, he was able to fix a part of the item he created as clay allowed for corrections to be done without breaking. Clay itself is moldable, able to withstand pressure, like pressing, squeezing, punching. So he could remold as how he needed to. So clay provided for him a healthy outlet for aggression without having the need to escalate his anger. And when I processed with him by offering my observations of him, it allowed him to make that connective link that he need need to choose violence, but rather he can slow down and he can respond. Another example is, let's say I have a client who struggles with being flexibility as it tends to be a bit rigid in general. So when the appropriate moment comes, I can offer watercolors as an intervention. And watercolors are harder to control, so experiencing them can be very frustrating. But with enough support and appropriate directive, for instance, paint within a circle using watercolors, the client can experience sitting with that frustration a bit longer, can experience embracing the fluidity of the material a moment longer. So progressively, the client can paint within bigger circles. Why circles? Because circles enable containment, less daunting as compared to if I were to give like a A3 paper or A4 paper, because the client can see the boundaries ahead. So as such, facilitation is the key element here. Using art by itself is therapeutic, such as the coloring activities that you may do. I think nowadays that's quite popular, color by numbers. And that itself is therapeutic because making art or doing art is the therapeutic activity. But this does not qualify as an art therapy session. If I could give a parallel example, after a long day, you meet up with some friends, you go for drinks, and you have a ranting session, talking to your friends, that's therapeutic. You can laugh about it, you feel relaxed after that. But talking to your friends, while it is therapeutic, it doesn't constitute as a therapy session. Another common myth that I tend to hear, and I also have this, before, therapists will interpret the artwork, or the therapist will interpret the work that is done in session. This is a myth because art therapy, it's more of a collaborative partnership. We work alongside our clients to empower them in the sense making as they engage with the art. We may have assumptions or curiosities about what's going on, but we tend to always check in with the clients because we do not hold all the answers anyway. So having shared that, I hope that shed some light into what's art therapy, what's not art therapy. For this half of the session, we have this exciting segment. I hope you all are excited about it, where you can get to be creative. So today's directive is called My Self-Care Toolbox. This is the reference here. If any of you are curious, where do I get this? I made some adjustments to the original directive to support the intention and context for today's webinar. So in the ad that Ignite has sent, there's a couple of information there, and one of which is the materials that I hope you have them ready within arm's reach. And I'm just listing down the same materials as a reminder. The first material that I hope that you have with you, paper, a few pieces that can be of different sizes and colors as you wish. Some drawing items. I listed a number of items here. You can have all, you can have a few, you can just have one. It's really up to you what you have and what's comfortable for you. A pair of scissors and a bottle of glue. So I hope that you have gotten the set of materials ready with you. Okay. So here's the instructions. There's 3 parts to this. I will guide you part by part. This is the first part. The first part is choose one paper of any size and any color that you like to work with for today. Okay. Of all the papers that you have, you can just choose one and put it in front of you. With your drawing material of your choice, okay, create an outline of a toolbox. If you intend to have like a lid or a cover, I invite you to create an open toolbox. So I know that I mentioned the word box. It's not necessarily have to be a box. It can be of any shape. It can be of any size. But when it comes to size, just as a guide, we'll be putting things into the toolbox later on. Okay, so that's just as a guide for you. I will put about 2 minutes on the clock. And when the first minute is up, I'll just come back and then prompt and let you know the time remaining. Okay, so I hope you got your toolbox with you. Don't worry if you have not, finished it, it's okay. We can come back to it. So this is the second instructions of part 2 or part 3. Choose another paper or papers from your collection. I would like to invite you to draw at least 5 self-care actions that represent how you have been taking care of yourself. So it can be a symbol, it can be a shape, it can be the actions itself. Up to you. But try to think of at least 5 self-care actions. You can embellish them as you go along, which means that you can add colors to it, you can add patterns to it, you can scribble on it, up to you. And again, it is up to you the size of these images. So feel free to think of at least 5. If you have more, that's great. If you only have 5, that's fine too. We have about, I would say about 10 minutes for this segment. Again, if you want to put on some music as you work, feel free to do so. Get yourself comfortable. And I will let you know once we have about 5 minutes. I'll watch the clock and then I'll do the countdown with you. Okay. So we'll move on to the part 3 of 3, part 3 or 3 of the instructions. Okay. So what I like you to do now, to invite you guys to do, is to take a pair of scissors and you cut out these images. After you cut each one out, just the outline of it, place them onto your toolbox. If you feel you're very sure about it, you're very certain about it, you can take the glue and then you can paste them down. If you're not, you're just thinking, maybe not yet, you can just place them in the top box without having to glue them down. And feel free to decorate your toolbox with design, shapes, words. You could even name your toolbox if you want to. So we have about 5 minutes for this segment. And I'll let you know when we are about halfway there. Okay, so I hope that that's done. But if I speak and if you need to just continue on your artwork, that's perfectly okay as well. Just some couple of reflections that I would like to invite you to have a quiet moment to yourself to think about. You can put up your artwork, at the side in front of you or on the table where you can actually look at it. Some thoughts that perhaps you might want to think about. Is there anything from doing this activity that surprises you? Of all the choices that you have right there in front of you, what is your favorite choice? What is your go-to choice? And what made that so? Everybody has a different choice. So what made you choose that? How do these self-care actions help you to handle stressful or unsupportive moments that you had? In what ways do you think they actually help you? Which actions would you like to develop further? Is there any that you think you may need to enhance or do more of, or maybe perhaps do less of? That's okay too. And I'm curious about this. Any difference in the sizes of your self-care actions? If so, what are your thoughts about it? What makes you actually draw one bigger than the other? What do you think that could mean? Do you think you might consider other self-care actions that you have been meaning to try? that you've been meaning to add on to your toolbox? Last but not least, any other takeaways for you today? These are some reflection questions that can help you think about the activity that you did, what it meant and what it may not mean for you. And everybody's answer to that can be really different. That's okay. And I hope that this short art experiential activity leaves you with some insights about how you have been taking care of yourself, about how that might or might not change in the future. Or perhaps, you might think that, oh, I could actually ask someone about this particular one because someone actually have been doing this way longer than I have, and I would like to learn more. Cool. Thank you, everyone, for coming by. And I hope that, that, gives you a little peek into art therapy, as well as give you a little bit of insight into about your self-care, how you've been taking care of yourself. Yeah, and yeah, that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Kia ora, Aishah. Thank you.